Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. In today's video, I'll be showing us how to make this skater dress with collar. I already put up a video where I explained how to cut it, so I will link that in the description box if you haven't already watched the video. If you're interested in learning how to sew this dress, then stick with me to the end of the video. Alright then, let's get into it.
First things, I'm going to mark my zip allowance on the lining. That's 1.5 inches from the top to the bottom, and I'm going to do that for the main fabric as well. And then I'll take them to the sewing machine and sew on that line with the basting stitch, so that will be the biggest stitch on the sewing machine. This is just going to serve as a temporary closure. Next, I'm going to sew the darts for the main fabric and the lining for both the front and the back pieces. I like to mark it with chalk before I take it to the sewing machine because it helps me to sew easier and faster, so I'm not trying to figure things out at the sewing machine. So I'll just do this marking for all the pieces that I'm sewing the dart on. I've done the darts for all the pieces and I've pressed them. So next I'm going to couple the back and the front pieces together. There are a number of ways to sew this if you're aiming for knit finishing, but for the purpose of this video, I'll be sewing the main fabric and the lining individually before I couple it together after joining it as one piece. So basically I'm sewing two dresses, the main fabric and the lining. Whatever I do for the main fabric, I'll do for the lining, and then in the end I'll just join them all together. Just pay attention, you'd see what I do. So I'm going to couple this at the shoulder with 1/2 inch sewing allowance. Next, I'm going to couple the back and front piece by the sides. So I will centralize the pieces and ensure that it's properly balanced and then pin it together. Next, I'll go on to apply my bust measurements and waist measurements. So at the bust area, the round bust is 38, divided by 2 is 19. So I'll apply 19 at the bust area. Measuring from one side to the other, I have 20.5, so I need it to be 19. So that is what I have left is 1.5. So I'm going to divide that 1.5 by 2 and apply it to both sides. So that is 3/4 on both sides. So I'll do the same thing for the waist measurement. The round waist is 28, divided by 2 is 14. So I have 17 minus 14, that is 13, divided by 2. I'll be splitting 1.5 on both sides of the waist. Next, I'll use a straight line to connect both points together at the bust and the waist. And then I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew on those lines. I'll do the same thing for the lining as well. After sewing, I'll just go ahead and trim off the excess, and then I'll press the seams opened. For the collar, I have this scrap of white cut lace, and this is what I'll be using to create my collar. If you don't want to go through the stress of creating your own collar, then you can get a pre-made collar and attach it to your dress. To create a collar, the first thing I'm going to do is to mark the midpoint of the center front and ensure that the shoulders are aligned. So I'll notch the midpoint of the center front. Then I'll take this bodice to the lace and trace the shape of this neckline. When placing the bodice on the lace, I'll ensure I have sufficient space underneath to form the collar. I'll trace the exact neckline, but at the sides I'm going to leave 1/2 inch allowance for joining, like so. Once I have the shape of the neckline, I'll take the bodice off and then draft the shape and size of the collar I want. The shape and size is dependent on what you want it to look like. So I wanted mine circular and a bit wider, so that's what I did. But if you want yours triangular and smaller, then just alter your measurement to what you want it to look like. Now that I'm happy with the shape I have, I'll just go ahead and cut this out. And then I'll cut out lace trimmings that I'll use to finish up the end, like this, and I'll do that fully around the whole edges. Next, I'll cut out the underlay for the lace. I'm using satin for this, and I'm cutting out 4 pieces, so 2 for each. One is the main and one is the lining. The neckline is the exact measurement, but around the sides I've left half an inch for sewing allowance. I'll take the underlay to the sewing machine and sew 2 pieces together. I've sewn it and given it a good press, and this is what I have. Next, I'll take the lace and attach it to this underlay. I'll be using a hemming gum to attach it together. And after I've attached it to the underlay, I'll sew the trimmings around the edge. And this is what I have for both collars. Now I'm going to attach the collars to the bodice. To attach it, first of all, I'll place one on the midpoint, so the part I notch initially at the center front, and place the second one, ensuring that both of them overlap just a little bit, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew all around the neckline. So I've attached it. The next thing I'm going to do is to sew the sleeve. I'll place the main fabric and the lining together at the end, and then I'll sew it together, ensuring that it's centralized. I'll just go and sew half an inch sewing allowance all the way from one end to another. So I've sewn it and I also top stitched it. Next, I'll place one end to the other, ensuring that it aligns. And then I'll take the bodice and measure around the armhole. This is just to double check the measurement I need for the sleeves. So I would apply that same measurement around the armhole of the sleeves. And then I would apply my upper arm measurement. The upper arm measurement is 13 inches plus 1 inch for ease, that's 14, divided by 2, that's 7, so I'd mark 7. And then I'll mark my round sleeve measurement. The round sleeve is 11 inches plus 1 inch for ease, that's 12, divided by 2, that is 6 inches, so I'd mark 6 inches and mark it all the way straight. So I start to flay out around the allowance so that by the time I sew it, it will balance better. I'll also double check the lining measurement to ensure I have the correct measurement. So next I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew on that line, and I'll do this for both sleeves. After I'm done sewing, I'll press the seam open, and then I'll turn the sleeve to place it the way it should be. So I'll ensure that at the top, so around the armhole area of the sleeve, the lining and the main fabric balances so they are equal, and then I'll press it. So these are my sleeves. The next thing I'm going to do is to sew the lining and the main fabric together. So I'll just go and sew it like this all around the armhole area. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the sleeves to the bodice. So I haven't attached the lining of the bodice yet, so I'll be attaching the sleeves to the bodice. So I'll take it to the sewing machine and start sewing from the armpit area all the way to the shoulder, all the way to the other side. Okay, so I've attached the sleeves to the bodice. Next, I'm going to attach the lining to the bodice, but before I do that, I'm just going to make a little alteration on the bodice. So I'm going to reduce the measurement at the back by 1 inch. This is because your measurements in front and at the back to the waistline are not the same. So I'm just going to reduce it at the back so that it balances up when we wear the dress. So I took the zip allowance and folded it, ensuring the side seams align, and then I'll measure my 1 inch at the zip allowance and then connect it to the side seam, and then I'll trim it off. So I'll do the same thing for the lining as well. Okay, now I'm ready to attach the lining to the main fabric. So I will open my zip allowance on the lining and the main fabric. I'll be joining by the neckline, so I'll take the one neckline to the other and then go and join it from end to end, but I'll be leaving that zip allowance side open, so I'm not sewing it all the way to the end. I'll start from here and go all the way to the other side and stop around the same side I started on this end. This is just to leave space for my zip. Next, I will notch it all around the curve so that it balances better. And then next I will top stitch on the neckline on the lining, but I'll start 1 inch before the end of where I sewed, just to make it easy for me to attach the zip. And next I'll give it a good press. Next I'm going to attach the armpit area to the armhole of the sleeves. So I'll be using the lining to seal this area. So I'll be sewing it from the inside so that this place goes in. So I'll start from the armpit area and sew all the way to the shoulder from the inside. Like so. So I'll just turn it and then sew from the inside from one end to the other. It might be a bit difficult to sew from one end to the other at one go, so I'll be sewing from one end to the shoulder, and then I'll come back and then turn it and then sew the other end. And then I'll notch it so that it balances properly, and then give it a good press. So that's it for the bodice. The next thing I'm going to do is to attach the flay to the bodice. So I'll be attaching lining to lining and main fabric to main fabric. So I'll take it and attach it from one end to the other. Next I'm going to sew the ends. So I'll start by marking my zip allowance, so how long the zip should go. For a dress, you want your zip allowance to go beyond the hip measurement so that it goes in properly, but I'm going to be using my zip to measure how long it should go because my zip is not so long. So I would measure how long it goes and then mark 1/2 inch zip allowance all the way from the beginning to the end of the flay. I'll do the same thing for the lining. If you found this video helpful so far, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. If you haven't yet subscribed to my YouTube channel, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you're notified whenever I post a new video. Next, I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew with the basting stitch from the waistline all the way to that point, and then from that point I'll lock it and sew with the normal stitch all the way down, and then I'll iron the seam opened. Next I'll go and hem the bottom of the flay for the main fabric and for the lining. Okay, to sew the zip I will open the basting stitch. So this part is just to have a permanent line where the zip should go. So I'll just open it all the way to where I locked for the main fabric and then for the lining. Once I have it opened, I'll place my zip on the zip allowance and then pin it. So I'm ensuring that the line I have is on the edge of the zip where it should be. So I'll just do that for both sides. Also at the waistline, I would make sure that both lines on both sides are lined so that my waistline at the zip part is not uneven, and then I also ensure that it's equal at the top as well. So pinning it helps you to ensure you have precision, but if you already know how to sew zip, you can skip this step and just go straight to sewing. And mind you, we're doing this on just the main fabric. So now I'm done pinning, I'll take it to the sewing machine and sew on the zip on both sides. See what I was talking about? You should ensure that the waistline aligns at the zip, otherwise your clothes just looks very tacky. So now I'll take the lining and then sew that end that I left opened. So I'll just sew it all the way on both sides. And then I'll take it to the sewing machine and then sew the lining to the main fabric, ensuring the zip is between the lining and the main fabric. And that's it for this video. I hope the video has been helpful and easy to follow. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Alright guys, thank you for joining me today, and I hope to see you in my next video. Goodbye.